Hello and welcome. So in this video I'll be previewing a couple of Gero Design's laser cut wooden buildings they have on offer. I'll take a look at the city centre shop they have here, the separate parts that go into building it, finishing with what it looks like assembled and how all the pieces fit together. But first off, I'll start with the farmhouse which they have, which comes in numerous wooden parts and also with some plaster, some stones and cobbles and roof tiles that help to finish it all off. Okay, so the first kit, the farmhouse, obviously, so you can see it comes in two boxes. So we open up the first one, and inside, first off, we find some brickwork, or some stonework rather. The pieces that go around the outside of the building, around the lower edge there, so you can hopefully see in the picture. We've got some plaster. This again goes on the outside, but above the brickwork, in between all the wooden pieces. As the build develops, you'll see exactly how that will work. A couple of tubes of super glue, the barn doors or the garage doors, and also one of the doors for the farmhouse itself. And then in the main bag is all the laser cut pieces, the walls and the fixtures for the farmhouse itself, plus also the tiles for the roof. So we'll take a closer look at that in a moment and how it's all going to go together. And in the second box is basically just more stonework, plaster stone. You get four bags of these, which are cobbles, longer, like a rectangular size cobbles. Four bags of those. One bag of the long ones, again like curved pieces, and two bags of the smaller squared off cobbles to create the courtyard, so to speak, in front of the farmyard. I probably won't do that and use most of these, maybe about 30-40% of them for what I have in mind, but really useful to have in your stash for future projects. Okay, so I've laid out the contents of the bag, as you can see, to give you a bit more of an idea of how this kit goes together. We'll start off with the roof tiles in cardboard here. There's two sheets of those. And then moving on to the walls themselves. They come in two sections, as you can see. Each of the wall pieces, four altogether, and as you can probably notice, they got like some markings marked out on them, and the idea of that is for these pieces here is to cut them out as you go along, and then these correspond to the pieces on the walls to act as like the timber work, the wooden framing around the outside of the building. So that's a little bit of work that will need doing. But look quite smart once it's finished. And then the plaster we had before will go in between each of the joins to recreate the plaster around the edges of the wood. So that's basically the idea of this kit. You've got some laser cut window frames, and then the actual windows themselves, nicely detailed. Obviously we've seen the doors previous, and then there's also comes some little brick pieces, and these are to cut out and to put around the plaster work before you put the plaster on, again just to add a little bit of detail to the building. Finally, there's a couple of larger pieces of wood, and this is just for the roof that the tiles will be attached to. So that's pretty much it. As you can see in this photo here, it shows you the dimensions of the building itself and what it will look like once it's all put together. So now we can make a start. So this is where I'm up to right now. I'm really enjoyed putting this together. Just one word of warning, when doing the roof tiles, they come in 28 strips of tiles, which can obviously be cut down, and altogether there's 30 rows. There's 11 here and 19 here, so with the offcuts you come up to 30 altogether. But with this roof side, I needed to cut off this much excess wood around the edges because it was a bit too big, and all I've left with now are roof tiles are these little bits. So if you miscalculated, you could end up coming up to 25% to go of this last roof, and you'll find you're running out of tiles. So that's just one thing to bear in mind, because obviously it doesn't come with instructions or any guidelines, so it's always good just to test first before you start gluing down proper. So the next thing to do now, this is almost done, is to start with the plaster. This goes around in between all the gaps around the outside, and then that's pretty much it. That's it for the farmhouse. It's probably the most enjoyable building that I've made, certainly using wood for the first time instead of the usual plaster made pieces or the plastic, which is usually the norm, and I certainly recommend it for a nice diorama backdrop, and the enjoyment that would be had once you started painting and weathering all the pieces. There's obviously still plenty of scope where you could add some extras, such as perhaps some drain pipes, maybe change the doors, scratch build some new ones, because there's not too much detail there. But one piece I'll definitely have a re-look at is the join between the two roofs with the tiles. Maybe put a little bit of lead foil used as a join just to neaten that up a little bit. And as you can see, the rear is also all left open, which is nice if you want to scratch build some interior, which is probably what I'm going to do in the garage in the corner here, and then the rest will just be covered over with probably some balsa wood. So I'll leave a link in the notes below of this video to the diorama project I created using this farmhouse as the main backdrop, and to see how I painted it up and made the interior for the garage here. So now on to the second building. Okay, so the next building we're going to have a look at, this is Gero Design's shop. Again, another laser cut wooden kit, just the one box for this one. First off, we've got a bag of the main building itself. Again, like I say, laser cut wood pieces. There's quite a number in there, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Another bag of roof tiles. There's two sets in here, two sets of roof tiles, similar to the farmhouse. So there's more than enough tiles to cover this building. We've got some cardboard pieces, which again we'll cut out with a knife and just go around, and then these glue onto the corresponding pieces on the wooden facade of the building, just for extra detailing. And then finally there's 2 packs of super glue, although probably what I will do is I'll just use the wood glue as I did before in the last build. I just find it gives a really strong bond, it's worked really well, although obviously super glue would work just as well. Okay, so these are all the pieces laid out on the table, as you can see, pretty straightforward. These wooden pieces, these are all doubled up so for thickness, so the first thing you would do is just to glue those together before you can start cutting out the cardboard and gluing them onto the corresponding pieces. So that's pretty simple enough. One thing they don't supply in the kit is a door, so you would definitely have to scratch build a door, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. And another thing they don't supply is any instructions at all. So it took me a little while to figure out, because of the shape of the building in the corner, exactly what pieces and how it all fitted together. I referred a few times to the website or to the box, the photograph on the box, but it's quite straightforward really. They also do supply a couple of triangular pieces of wood, which again I was a little unsure of what they were both for. One was obviously the roof, but looking at the dimensions, the larger piece is the roof, because of the dimensions of the building, the length and the width, that would fit the building. But the smaller one, not quite so sure. I think what that's for is to glue the sides onto, I think, to either glue them next to or to glue them onto to start form the base to start building up. The only part of the kit that does have any labelling at all is the steps, as you can see there.
But apart from that, you're on your own, but it is quite straightforward. There's longer strips of wood, a few pieces are there, and basically these just glue onto there, just for, again, just to add a bit more dimension onto the building. So it should look quite nice once it's put together, and that's what we'll start doing now. That's it, really nice kit all in all. I really enjoyed putting it together. Just obviously a slight issue with the doorway here, and try and get it to fit, whether that was a mistake I made, my fault, but nothing that a little craft knife and a bit of filler won't fix. Obviously the interior is just a blank canvas, which so you could scratch build and do a nice little interior there, upstairs, downstairs, or what I'll probably just do is just like the farmhouse, just block it off with some balsa wood. And give that a nice finish. But all together, really nice. Enjoyed putting this together, and I think you'll agree it's not a bad little building.